things have been a lot better. Now, I'm going to be, so for those of you who I told last week, this issue of the live streaming, this is what we're going to do. I will be doing Facebook Live. I did some Facebook Live today that's on my public Facebook page, talking about my book, Tears to Triumph. For those of you who wrote in, particularly the questions last week on live stream, I will be taking the questions that seem particularly significant for the group, and I will be doing a live Facebook Live chat about that next week, I promise. There are a couple here on the live stream from tonight that I want to take. This first one just talks about how only love is real, fear is an illusion. She says, well, I don't understand that. It seems to me these things going on are real. I hope that tonight's lecture basically answered that question. This is to Robin, because as we talk tonight, the Course in Miracles talks about real with a little r, real with a big R. To say that something's real within the 3 dimensions, it's real within the 3 dimensions. The message of the Course in Miracles is that the 3-dimensional plane is itself a gigantic mortal hallucination. Okay? Now, to the woman who wrote in, who is in such pain over your husband's infidelity. You said that you'd been married to him for 25 years and they had a great marriage. And he went out with someone, and I understand she's your children's age, and he was with her 4 or 5 times. I get that. I get that you're still married to him, and that it's very, very difficult, and it's been 2 or 2.5 years, and you still, it's so painful. When it comes to sexual infidelity, I in my personal life, I'm pretty, at this point in my life, pretty conservative. I certainly myself prefer a monogamous relationship. I understand the point of monogamy. I understand that the point is that the sacred agreement between 2 people, there's a way you can relax, that you can't relax outside a monogamous relationship. I understand all that, and for my life, I agree with that. Having said all that, Americans really need to grow up about sex. Because I see more marriages ruined by the fact that someone cannot forgive infidelity than by the fact that infidelity occurred. I understand that it's crushingly painful for you. But you know what? There's a point at which you decide whether or not to forgive. That at a certain point in this letter that I read, and you know who you are, and I don't want to say your name because it's now up to you. Because what you said in your question was, I know he's not what he did, but there's still some judgment there. Marriage doesn't mean that the other person's going to do it right, and this is not to minimize sexual infidelity, and it's not to minimize the pain that it can cause. But I have seen so many couples, and I've seen so many marriages in my work, as well as in my friendships, where at a certain point, it became the other person's inability to get over it that seemed at least as big a deal as the fact that the problem had occurred. Now, that to the ego sounds outrageous, because that's just going too far. But from a Course in Miracles perspective, we really want to think about that. There's a lot more to relationships than whether or not the other person made a mistake. And that has to do with who they are and what they're willing to be and do after they made the mistake. So, once again, the Course in Miracles says only what you are not giving can be lacking in any situation. And in the New Testament, Jesus says, forgive 70 times 70. The issue, the reason I mention it with this particular woman's question is because from what you say, you want to remain in your marriage. Ask God to help you. Ask God to remove your judgments. Ask God's help that you might remove your judgment. And so this woman who wrote this, I'm going to tell you the first sentence is, I have been listening to you and studying Return to Love as well as A Course in Miracles for years now. So you know who you are and your marriage, and we're going to pray with you right now. And if there's anyone else watching or anyone in the room, and you're in a relationship and you can't forgive, there's something you can't forgive, and the person is sorry, and the person has apologized, and the person wants to move on, and you yourself can't get over it, Let's say a prayer for that situation right now. Dear God, we join with anyone for whom this prayer is meaningful as we surrender to you our relationships, and we surrender to you our marriages, and we surrender to you our partnerships. And we pray that you, dear God, remove from us our judgmental thoughts. Remove from us our unforgiveness. Help the woman who wrote this to see her husband as you see him, in his innocence. Help her mind to focus on what he has done right rather than tormenting her with what he did wrong. Remove from her mind those thoughts and memories that do not serve, and open her eyes and ears and mind and heart to the truth of who he is now. All of us place in the hands of God our relationships that need to be healed, asking that they be placed on the altar, delivered to divine right order. And so it is, we say. Amen. This person is asking, isn't it time, could the fact that America was built upon the genocide of First Nations people, which ultimately secured the theft of their land, there has never been atonement for these initial horrors, help explain the degree of unrelenting and sustained violence in America? Actually, yes. America's failure to, this is true of slavery, it's true of the genocide of Native Americans. There's a way in which America, on the level of the psyche, has not fully atoned. We haven't fully, it's like this inability to face the full horror of our own dark shadows, which is an extremely important way for an individual to grow. It's an extremely important way for a collective to grow. It's like in AA, when you have to actually face the exact nature of your wrongs, the exact nature of your character defects, and this violent aspect of America's history. Absolutely. And I have this ritualized apology to the Native Americans in my book, Illuminata, whoever wrote this, if you would be interested in that. So, yes, there is a way in which America's inability to fully own, both with slavery and genocide of Native Americans, this is a place where the psyche of America is stuck. But I think that we move forward. A nation moves in developmental stages just like an individual does. And I do feel that there, with more consciousness comes more of a realization of what it means to face your own dark shadows. And so the more of us understand that concept, the more of us do and will understand it in relation to the country as a whole. Okay, let's talk about anything you want to talk about. We'll start right there with that gentleman.
Hi.
Hi. You want to stand up? If that's comfortable for you, stand up, and especially since there's a camera and those people. Hi.
Hey. The way I have an equation.
Okay.
So for me, it's fear is to ego.
Yes.
As love is to God.
Yes. Love is God. Well, not as love as is to God. Love is God. Okay. Fear is ego. Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Course... Just came up with that, huh? Mm-hmm. So the Course in Miracles says that love is to fear what light is to darkness. Darkness is not a thing. Darkness is the absence of a thing. The only way to get rid of darkness is to turn on the light. And the only way to get rid of fear is to turn on the love. You know, I told you a few weeks ago I was in this bookstore and there was this card that said enlightenment, and you turned it around and what it said about enlightenment was you can move past your fears. And the guy who showed me the card said, "Isn't that cool?" I said, "No, it's not at all. It's total BS. You know, that we've come up with that enlightenment is that you can move past your fears. No, enlightenment is compassion and love for all living things, which is the only way to move past your fears. You know, moving past your fear, it's just about me moving past my fears, which will keep me in fear. The only thing that will remove my fear is getting over myself. By knowing who I am in God, and when I know who I am in God, part of who I am in God is that I am one with you. My oneness with God includes my oneness with you. So the only way to get rid of our fear is to turn on our love. If you're afraid, a woman said to me the other night, we were at one of those places where people got up and sing. She might be here tonight. You know who you are if you're here. And it was an open mic, and she used to be in the theater, a musical theater. And she said, I really would love to, but I'm afraid to. I said, just remember that you're only here, that your voice is is a way that God has given you this gift that you could help love people. And you just are getting up there to love people. You can't think that and be afraid at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I ask you one more thing?
Yes.
Okay, so I love what you say about there's not a point where your spirit ends and mine begins, because we're all connected.
That's what the Course says.
So in that equation that I just stated, that I feel that our ego is the manifestation of that disconnection.
Yes, correct.
And it consumes that separation.
Correct.
Okay.
The Course in Miracles says you are like a wave in the ocean thinking you're separate from other waves. Now, if I think of myself as a wave separate from the rest of the ocean, how could I not be terrified of the ocean? How could I not be afraid that I'm going to be obliterated by all these other waves in any moment? But if I think of myself as one with the ocean, I just realize I'm a very big deal. I'm one with the ocean. I move, it moves. It moves, I move. And so it's a completely different psychological and emotional orientation given me, depending on whether I think I'm separate from you, which I am in the realm of bodies, in the realm of the three dimensions. Of course, you're over there and I'm over here. But if I remember that in the realm of spirit, there's no place where you stop and I start. Once again, enlightenment is a shift in self-perception from body identification to spirit identification. Now, among other things, knowing there's no separation between me and you, or between you and me, is realizing there's a line in the Course, very powerful, that an idea does not leave its source, which is why you cannot be separate from God, but also why my thoughts cannot be separate from me. So if I'm thinking an attack thought towards you, I will feel more guilty. Because there really is no place where you start. So if I'm attacking you, if I'm having a judgmental thought towards you, a negative thought, a critical thought, a blaming thought, if I'm having an attack thought towards you, the Course says, I'm to think of a sword falling over your head, but to remember, there is no place where you stop and I start, so it's falling on mine. You'll get over it more easily than I will. And now the ego says, if I attack you, it's to get rid of my own guilt, which will work for about 15 minutes. That's why you have to just, obviously not behaviorally, but with love. Right? They're innocent children of God, too.
Thank
Makes
you.
sense? Thank you. Yes, sir. And then I'll come back to you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Hi.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Pardon?
So my name is Živko.
Hello.
Hello. First of all, Miriam, thanks so much for your beautiful work.
Thank you.
I have spent so many sleepless nights with you, your teachers. That's why, and you've helped me a big deal.
Thank you.
And after tonight, I can say that I don't actually have a major question, but I want to hear your thoughts on, because you are really politically involved, in the same time managed to stay really in touch with the truth, the only truth. How can we be more politically involved in the same time, not get caught up in the whole drama? Because nowadays, with all the social media, there are so many organizations that there is a pool that, invest your time, invest your money, invest your efforts toward this kind of idea, which sounds great.
Okay.
But then later on, there is still unconsciousness, and it might sound it's a good idea, but it uses a platform to condemn something else that it's wrong.
Okay.
Thank you.
First of all, when you say, how do you get involved politically without getting caught up in all the drama? Get caught up in all the drama. It's dramatic, okay? So this idea, can you imagine if somebody had said, this is why we have such a thing about not wanting to numb yourself when things are upsetting. Can you imagine, where would we be today if the abolitionists had just known how to chill? And just don't create, can you imagine if somebody had said to Susan B. Anthony, you just create so much drama. These things, there are things to be concerned about, right? These things are dramatic, And so, first of all, these are dramatic times. And so the goal should not be not to be involved in the drama. It's to be involved in the high drama. You're going to be, if you are dissociating from the great drama, you're going to be living a life where you're constantly creating cheap drama. What you call a life where you've dissociated that, it's just your own cheap drama. The issue is because life is dramatic. Look at a mountain sometime. Look at the sky sometime. Look at a flower. It is dramatic. The issue is the high side of drama rather than cheap drama. The history of the United States is very dramatic. We have had the worst kinds of dramas, such as the genocide of the American people, such as slavery, such as oppression, such as systemic injustice, some of which goes on now. But we've also had the great dramas of abolition, the great drama of the civil rights movement, the great drama of the women's suffragettes. Right now we have some very dark drama. We have the undue influence of money on our political system in a way that is a threat, an existential threat to democracy itself. It is happening, and it is dramatic. The question is not whether these times are dramatic in response. These questions are dramatic in response. That you don't forget thinking that you can just I just don't want to be into the drama, right? It is rather, let me be giving my energy to the positive drama. There is nothing more beautiful than the drama of a man really standing in his greatness or a woman really standing in her greatness. This is dramatic. So when you talk about all the things on the internet, you're right. Sometimes even the best causes, then their bottom line is demonizing or negative in a way that you don't want to be part of. And that's why we want to have a different kind of conversation. That's why those of you who know, who go on my public Facebook page, sometimes when we talk about, we will talk about political issues. And I'll say, if you're going to be hateful, I will delete it. So it's not like you have to agree with me, it's not like you have to agree with anyone, but to speak, and it's really magnificent sometimes, because when people are called to the noble and called to the intelligent, then it's really great sometimes, because when we have those conversations, and it's not even necessarily people who agree with each other, but no, this thread is only for people who are going to find a place within themselves to say it in a way that is honoring of individuals. Now, there have also been times when people, particularly from a kind of an ill-conceived spiritual perspective, think anytime you disagree with someone, like for instance, as most people know, because I was very out there, I was a very passionate Bernie Sanders supporter. And I would talk about Bernie and Hillary, and the people would say she was negative about Hillary. I said, actually, you can't find one statement where I was negative about Hillary. So the fact that you're positive about someone doesn't mean you have to agree with them. So that's the thing about politics. Be in it. And be for the person that you support. But you don't have to personally demonize the person that you don't support. You just might not agree with their views. And that is the point. I do not agree with that position. That doesn't mean you're dishonoring the person. That doesn't mean you're putting it down. So this is a real task of our time. This is what Martin Luther King was about. This is what Gandhi was about. Martin Luther King, as a matter of fact, had the line, thank God didn't say I have to like my enemies. He said I have to love them. Didn't say I have to like them. So, there's a way in which a lot of people from a so-called spiritual perspective, I don't want to go there, it's so toxic. Being in the drama is not toxic. You're just leaving the job to other people to have to get their hands dirty while you're drinking green juice. And can you see my point there? And the truth of the matter is green juice is a perfect example. Good luck with all that green juice if while all those GMOs are being poured into the food supply, there's going to be a limit to how much your green juice can save you. So if it's a public issue, it will get privately to your door. Does that sound right to you, sir? Now, anybody else before we leave that topic, does anybody have any comments you want to make about that one way or the other? Okay, we cool? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So you mentioned GMO. So what do you think that is going to be the most helpful approach so we can reach more people? Spending more time on what is really wrong about GMO, or actually offering another different approach with what is good about food that is not GMO?
That would be according to your
Because if
guidance.
you keep noticing what is Monsanto, yes, everything, all the crops are really bad, and it feels so stagnant that we cannot even get out of it, so we can see that there is a different way that people grow food and deliver food. And so is it really about the positive message that we can spread out there that really reaches people and creates bigger change? Or
Right. Very good question, and the answer is both and. And also, there's a third category. I know some very intelligent people whose minds I respect, whose opinions I respect, who I know have very good values. They simply don't agree with me about GMOs. That's a part of it too. That's a part of it too. Listen to intelligent people who simply might not agree with you. That's another category. In terms of what you just said, your question is very good. It does need to be talked about Monsanto, actually. We do have to have our eyes open. And we do have to have our eyes open about the fact that huge multinational corporations, because of the undue influence of money, because of the McCutcheon case, because of Citizens United, have turned the U.S. government into their handmaiden. We do have to know that the TPP would only increase that, would override U.S. sovereignty, that even if we had a law to outlaw GMOs, then Monsanto could actually sue the U.S. government for lost profits. Unfortunately, we do have to look at that. The Course in Miracles says, look at the crucifixion, but do not dwell on it. If all you did was what I just said, it would eat you up, and you become negative, and you get into that energy, and it starts to eat you. Acknowledge it, know it. You do have to look at it. You had to look at the fact that there were slaves. You had to look at the fact that women could not vote. You have to look at what happened to Native Americans. This is not something you can afford to, we practice, the Course in Miracles says, positive denial, not negative denial. If there's a difference between transcendence and denial. You can't be in denial about what, and it's not just Monsanto, it's Syngenta, it's Dow, Syngenta and Dow, it's all chemical companies, so we can't be in denial about it. But you acknowledge it, you look at it, you do not dwell in it. And then you do what you were just saying is, do we talk about the crucifixion or we talk about the resurrection? We talk about both. But one is just acknowledged and informed because people need to know. But the second part is...
What about when people are so close that they don't even want to know and they
Don't
won't
worry
hear
about
it?
people who don't get it. Just speak passionately to people who either do and want to join with you in the resonant field created by people joining our minds, because the Course in Miracles says that an idea is stronger when it is shared. So just when you want to share information about something like that, just sing. It's singing your song. But most importantly, the second thing you were talking about, showing people the alternatives. So sometimes it is about exposing lies, like it helps feed people, when there's absolutely no evidence that anyone has not starved because of them. So sometimes, and part of being mature, part of being conscious, is that we have to hold these rather sickening realities in our minds. One of the stories I tell in my book, In Tears to Triumph, is about a news article I read about a soccer match in Iraq. And at the end of the soccer match, a bomb went off that was planted by ISIL. And the picture that accompanied it, it was on the internet and in the newspaper also. And the picture that accompanied it was this teenage boy. And he was being held and comforted by a young man who seemed maybe in his late 20s, early 30s or something. And the look on this young boy's face, and there had been something like 17 people had died in the bomb, and all of them were between the ages of 14 and 24, something like that. So here is this young boy living in a town in Iraq where one of the few real joys left to him is that he and his friends could have this soccer game. And then at the end of the soccer game, a bomb goes off and a bunch of these kids are killed. Now, I don't want to be someone who looks away. I don't want to be someone who doesn't watch that. And you know what? I don't want to be someone who doesn't deal with the horror of knowing that that was because of what my government did. That this wouldn't have even been started. And and that's part of this conversation about not desensitizing ourselves to the pain. If this young boy can't buffer himself from his pain, I don't want to buffer myself from mine. That's the soul force that Gandhi talked about. My girlfriend and I have been talking about, I'm not gay, by the way, because I know people say, hey, you said your girlfriend. my friend and I, so many words have changed so much. We were talking about the line that these are times that try men's souls. These are trying times. If you're not kind of sickened by some of what's going on, you're not looking. But feeling that, and that's really what the book is about, what Tears to Triumph is about. You have to look at the crucifixion. You have to, the story begins, Buddhist journey to enlightenment begins with the realization that life is suffering. The story of the Exodus begins with the realization that the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt by the Pharaoh, that metaphysical the Pharaoh, that dictator in our minds. Jesus suffered on the cross, but that's the beginning. And now we want to live into the resurrection. So it's an excellent question, thank you. And the answer is both and. You sound to me, though, like your assignment is to help articulate the resurrection. Everybody has their assignment. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Nice to see you.
Hi, I'm a Buddhist. So
A Buddhist, you said?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm Buddhist. So you quoted many times Buddhism. So I struggle to understand the concept of consciousness. In Buddhism, it carries from lifetime to the other.
Yes,
and
yes.
people here in non-Buddhist context, they call it memory and whatever
Yeah.
that they call it. It's a consciousness that carries. And I travel for my work widely to Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. I lived there for many, many years, and I've seen tremendous suffering. I try to connect and understand how does the connect consciousness lead to the suffering, and what could we do to help those people in terms of in a Buddhist context. I could easily understand that I could say this is because of the consciousness that they are suffering. They did something horrible in the past and now they're suffering. That's why bomb goes off in Iraq, Baghdad, or wherever you call it. So but how would you put that in the Course in Miracle context?
My daughter is a religious historian. And her studies have been about what happened, among other things, about what happened in England when King Henry ended the reign of the Catholic Church and established the Church of England and Protestantism in England. And she was talking to me about how one of the shifts was that they ended alms for the poor, that the Catholics had alms for the poor. But Protestantism introduced the idea that maybe they did something to deserve to be poor. When my daughter was telling me all this, it was very helpful to me because I couldn't understand why there are so many forces in America that call themselves Christian who stand for policies that would not give to the poor and would not help. And then I came to understand that was the Protestant mode, which was basically a form of that. They must have done something to deserve it. Now, A Course in Miracles does not go there. But the Course in Miracles does say, it's not my job to even try to monitor somebody else's path. My job is to monitor my own. No matter what karma brought you into these desperate situations. And one theory, and this is an Eastern philosophy, and I have seen it in Zen Buddhism, one theory, I think it was Suzuki, who said, maybe that is a great soul, a great saint, who took this on in order to mirror back to us our own consciousness. So from a Course perspective, all I know is it's not my job to figure out why a person incarnated as a starving child. As a Course in Miracles student, my job is to give eternal thanks, to really be in wonder and awe before the birth lottery that allows me to be not that. And also my karma is to feed that child. So what the karma of the child was is not the issue. What is my karma? My karma is to feed them. In terms of reincarnation, there is in the 3rd volume of the Course in Miracles, it says, is reincarnation true? And it's an interesting thing, you might want to read it. It says, in an ultimate sense, it's not true because there is no time. So in an ultimate sense, even if you have past lives, they're all happening in this instant. The Course in Miracles says the issue is to ask, what is the value of a belief? The value of a belief is not, of reincarnation, is that it reminds you that your life would be not the life of the body. But the ego's use of reincarnation would be making it all just trying to figure out what happened in your past, rather than knowing, since the past isn't real anyway, liberation does not come from anything in the past but from the present. Does that make sense? Also, I want to go back to something that I said, just to clarify, to be very clear. When I said my country's behavior, my country did not set that bomb. I was simply referring to the invasion that set off the chain of events. I wanted to be very clear about that. Yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am. This lady here and this gentleman here, and then I'll go to the other side.
Hi. Thank you for this evening. What's the deal with mental illness?
What's what?
What's the deal with mental illness?
What's the deal? Well, that's a very big question. What is the deal with mental illness? And I'm not an expert on mental illness. There are brilliant people who are experts at the issue of serious mental illness, and they'd be the ones to ask. What my book, Tears to Triumph, is about is the fact that many situations that are not mental illness are being prescribed medications that should only be prescribed for people with serious mental illness. I am not someone who...
I'm trying to understand from the perspective of the Course, are just certain people born of not right mind? I had a dear friend take his own life just a few months ago. First time I ever lost a friend. And the first time I've been close to somebody who left the planet in such a way. And I'm really, you don't know what the internal turmoil that
Was
people
that
go
person
through.
someone who had a history of mental illness?
Yeah.
This is not something... I can't imagine any human being who could give you an explanation that would bring comfort, and if that human being exists, it's not me. But what I can say is, let us pray, which is the ultimate comfort. You know, this is a full tilt catastrophe, and full tilt catastrophes do occur. And as much as the mind seeks to grasp for some explanation that's going to make it less horrifying, there is nothing that the mind can grasp that is going to make that less horrifying, beyond that the body was not destroyed, and that that person hopefully is at peace, and I think is at peace now in a way that he or she could not find while here. And it is in praying. That person is now released, and now the prayer is that you be released. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What is your name again? Danielle. Mm-hmm. And what was his or her name?
I'd rather not say.
Okay, let's pray. And this is for any of us who have lost a loved one, any of us who are grieving, anyone who has passed. Dear God, we join with Danielle in placing in your hands her relationship with the person she referred to. All of us place in the hands of God our relationship with the people that we have loved who have left this planet. May our relationships with them be reborn in spirit. God, please place a golden cord at one end to our heart and at the other end to their spirit. May we be reminded that whom God hath brought together, nothing and no one can put asunder. Let us be reminded that life and love live forever, and that the book of life will never end. And so it is, we say, amen. Yeah, hold on one second. People who have not, yes, sir, I had said I would go to you, yes.
Yeah, this is just sharing of a personal experience that I had tonight.
Okay.
You know, I noticed when I first started listening to you, I really enjoyed what you were saying. And then I would doze off. And then I would come back to consciousness, and I'd hear more, and I really like what you're saying, and I couldn't control it. I would doze off again. Until I reached a point where you were getting through so strongly to me, I just was hanging on your every word, and there was no more dozing off. So, and I appreciated the feedback you gave to some people here where I see that it's no more something where I can blame other people for my situations, that it all stems from me. I was going to ask you a specific question about something that was perplexing me over the years, but I realized I can get an answer for that, but then I'm going to walk out the door, and in a matter of maybe a few minutes, I'm going to be back to my old thinking. And so basically what I'm thinking about is that if I want what you have, I would like to get involved with the Course in Miracles. And because I need a structure, I need a practice. I was going to ask you, how much of a daily commitment is it going to take? And then I realized that, what if she tells me it's 2 hours a day? Oh, that's too much for me to attain greatness and to be able to help so many people. So in any event, I would like to get your book, and I would like to know, outside of reading the first few pages, how can I really start a practice in my life?
So let's talk about that, because you're probably not the only person who has that question. So let me get the Course in Miracles here. Okay, here is a Course in Miracles. It is a self-study program. It is contained in 3 volumes. Volume 1 is the text, which is about 600 and some odd pages, the intellectual basis of the Course. And I read to you tonight from the text. Volume 2 is the workbook. Volume 2's workbook has 365 days worth of exercises or lessons. Volume 3 is called the Manual for Teachers and just answers a lot of the questions that we have when we are students of the Course. Which book you start with, which book you read is completely up to you. There is no direction regarding that. When I first read the Course in Miracles, I felt moved to read the text and the workbook at the same time, because the text is the theological framework, and the workbook trains, the Course in Miracles says, the workbook, which the Course refers to as the crux of the Course, it says trains the mind to think along the lines that the text sets forth. The only direction given in regard to this is that whichever book you're reading, read it from the beginning. If you're just kind of picking up the Course in Miracles every once in a while and reading something, that's not doing the Course. I'm not saying don't do that, that's your business, but that's not doing the Course. The Course refers to itself as a very specific curriculum. In fact, there's a part in the text where it says, make sure you read the beginning before the end, or the experience could become more traumatic than beatific. Now, the text is dense. It's not the kind of book you say, I'm going to read a couple chapters before I go to bed. It's the kind of book where one paragraph could kind of blow your mind for the next couple of days. And there's nothing in the text that says you have to finish it within a year. There's nothing. It says nothing. So if you just, and also I have to tell you, it's more enjoyable than you think. Like, didn't you find that stuff I read tonight interesting? I mean, when you hear somebody read, you go, wow, that's kind of cool. And then I often feel that way when I haven't picked up the Course in a while. I go, I wonder why I resist this, right? Now, the workbook, on the other hand, does have an introduction. And that introduction tells you very specifically, it's about 1.5 pages, and it tells you very specifically how to go about doing the Course. It says, try to do 1 a day. The only thing do not do is more than 1 a day. And most people who do it, often, you'll say, I want to stay on this one 2 days. Sometimes you'll say, I want to stay 3 days. I never stay more than 3 days because, just move on. There's no, just move on, because you're just going to start it over when you finish it. It's like physical exercise. Do you know what I'm saying? You're just going to keep doing it. And the workbook exercises begin with like 30 seconds. A minute, you build up. After a while, you are closing your eyes, staying as long as the Holy Spirit has you, and it says half an hour would not be too long. But you build to that. You build the musculature. At the beginning, like a minute is asked of your time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you.
Okay. All right, okay, just very quickly. Yes, ma'am, over there. Because I see that we're quite late, I'm sorry.
Hi. I actually read the text part of A Course in Miracles, and it changed my life.
It does change your life. It changed mine too.
Released me from a lot of
Yes.
beliefs
Yes.
and, religions and so forth. It totally changed my life. And with that, I'm at a point in my life that, because we read this like several years ago, and now I'm at a point in my life that I'm understanding that my parents aren't my creator.
That's right.
And after, in so many years, believing that my parents was my creator, and therefore those beliefs and those fears and that culture, and I had to now release. And now I'm trying to build up the confidence to know Source. And being that Source, I'm an extension of Source, that I'm an heir.
That's right.
And
Miracles are your natural inheritance, as the Course says.
And I want to build up my confidence, and I want to walk with it. I want to talk with it. I want to hear with it. I want to touch with it. I want to have that confidence. I want to build up that confidence to know that Source is my creator. And just knowing, like, if your parents were a billionaire, and so you know that's
gazillionaire.
Exactly.
Your Father in heaven, your Source, or whatever you call it, owns the universes.
And I have.
And you have a safety deposit box where all entitlement is yours.
So it's like the wars, the politics, and all these things, the bombings and so forth, everything, it would occur, but I would know how to approach it with a peace.
And to transform, thereby transform them miraculously to be part of the miraculous transformation.
Yes. And so now I'm trying to develop that confidence.
Well, let me ask you a question. You began by saying you've read the text?
Yes, of Course in Miracles.
What about the workbook?
I was too.
Hello?
I know. And it's like I want to pick it up and actually read the text again, because it took me a long time, because I was reading it, and it's like you said, a paragraph, I would read it over and over again. I'm like, what are you talking about? Jesus? Wait a minute, I'm a Baptist. Let me put this down.
I know. I'm Jewish. You think you had a tough time.
Exactly. So when you first, it's really like, wait a minute, like you're saying a whole lot of things. And
my mama don't want me to.
Nothing to do with.
Okay, but let me ask you a question seriously about this business, because this goes from this whole text to the workbook. I hear you. You get the text. You've read that. The workbook trains the mind to think along the lines that the text sets forth. So everything that you just said you wanted is the workbook.
Okay.
That's what the workbook is.
Okay.
You want to build the confidence. You want to train your attitudinal muscles to actually stand on that and to know it more than intellectually.
Yes.
It's called the workbook.
Yes, because I see your posture, and I talk about it. I said she's flawless.
No, I'm not so flawless, but here I might look at it.
Like in speaking about this is like saying Marianne, because
Thank
you're
you.
so knowledgeable, and I want to be flawless. I want to walk in the streets. I want to look and be this corrections officer and walk in there and flow this to them, to everyone and out and in the world, and I want to exude it, and I want people to look at me and just see Christ, and I'm beginning to see that, and I love it, but at the same time I have those little times when I forget myself. And then it's like, and it's about remembering yourself. I tell the detainees to know thyself, but I really want to say remember thyself, because we already know. It's just remembering. And I want it. I want to be there so badly.
Well, first of all, I want to say to you on behalf of thousands of people, you're doing better than you think. That's number one. Number two, what a holy ministry you have. I want to tell you something that my daughter has told me, because she was in law school in England and she worked in some prison situations. Do you know what they're told there? You're not a convict. You're not allowed to call yourself a convict. You're a person who made a mistake. Just pretty high level. Do the workbook.
Thank you.
Everything that you're saying that you want is what the workbook is. Right? None of us are flawless until we're enlightened masters. But I meant it very sincerely, and I think obviously people agree with me. You walk in great and beautiful and eloquent light. Thank you for expressing
Thank you.
yourself. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Let us say our final prayer. It is an honor that you were here. I'm so grateful to you and to those of you on live stream. Okay? All right. And so as we leave each other's presence, we take this moment to bow before the Spirit in each other, to put ourselves in service to all living things, to remember who created us and who lives within us, to put our lives, all that we have and all that we are, in service to God. And as we go forth from this place, dear God, make us the people that you would have us be, that we might do as you would have us do. Let us remember the infinite power and infinite glory, infinite innocence, infinite love, and infinite peace that lies within us all. We place in your hands, dear God, our individual problems, our burdens, our questions to be answered. We place in your hands our visions, our hopes, our dreams, our struggles, and our pain. We place in your hands what we love, and we place in your hands what we fear. We also place in your hands, dear God, the problems of the world. We place in your hands our presidential elections. We place in your hands the issue of terrorism. We place in your hands the issue of climate change. We place in your hands all the ways, dear God, that humanity is at odds with ourselves. Help us, that we might be used by you to help each other. And now go forth in confidence and go forth in peace, for there are angels to your left and there are angels to your right. There are angels in front of you and angels behind you. There are angels above you and angels below. There is a path of light unfolding in front of you. At every moment, seek to walk this path. And at any moment of confusion or fear, remember who walks with you. Put out your hand as does a small child seeking the help of an elder brother. He will take your hand. For such is no idle fantasy. He is here. And so it is. Together, we all say, amen. God bless you, everybody. Thank you.